Hi, welcome to Write More Light. My name's Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center, and this is Write More Light. Today, in case you are unfamiliar with what this video program is, I'm going to give a short little lesson, and then we will get updates about the Midwest Writing Center, and then a 5-minute free write. On alternating days, I'll interview some sort of expert in the writing community, someone involved in the writing community. And then follow with updates and a free write. Today is a lesson type of day. Today we're going to talk about what it means when someone says they're reading through a blank lens. I wanted to do this because I do a lot of talking about close reading, which is something that we learn in the literary community. We talk a lot about like textual evidence and reading for blank. And I really think that that should be a much more accessible thing. I don't think that should be hidden inside academia. I don't think that it should be a conversation that can't be had among anyone. So today we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in real time. I'm standing. I'm gonna end up sitting at some point. So heads up if I change height. I decided the best way to do this in like tell me like I'm five type of way, which is my favorite kind of learning, right? I want all learning to be super accessible. So when I ask for information, I also ask for it in the simplest terms. That's why when I do interviews, I start from baseline. It's just always how we're going to do it here. The more accessible, the better. I would love for a 5-year-old to be able to have this conversation with me. That would be really cool. Also for reference, so that that doesn't seem like weirdly ageist or something, that's a very popular page on the website Reddit. Is Tell Me Like I'm 5 or Teach Me Like I'm 5. That's where I got that. As far as I know, that's where the term came from, and it's people explaining difficult concepts very simply. And that's, like I said, how I learn. So something we hear a lot in particular is looking at something through a feminist lens. There are lots of other options out there. We can look at things through a racial lens. We can look at things through an environmental lens. We can look at things any type of way, really. And that serves a purpose, right? If I'm reading really any book or engaging with any media, and yeah, I'm going to back up. Anytime I engage with any kind of media, books, music, TV, I'm engaging with it through my perspective. Everything I've ever done in my life that has built my identity, that has informed the way I think, is influencing how I understand that piece of art. So all the time when I'm reading through a Sarah lens. That's different for all people, right? A lot of the time something will hit you harder because you've experienced something like it, or it'll hit you really hard because you've never considered something like that. Or maybe you'll find it unbelievable because you've never considered something like that. And that's your own personal lens. That's the way that you navigate the world and the way that you understand the world. When someone asks us to do a reading through, say, a feminist lens, that's the one I'm going to be going with because it's the one I see the most, first of all, and I think the easiest to navigate as beginners, really. And I'll be able to explain it better than being like, I want to explore this through a animal rights lens, and the thing that we're discussing. The thing that we're discussing is Pride and Prejudice. Like I wouldn't know where to begin. There are scholarly texts out there like that, though. There's a book that I know of off the top of my head, the thing that is the reason I just said that, that looks at the movie Get Out by Jordan Peele through a zoological animal rights speciesism lens. I don't have a better explanation for it, but it's cool. It's cool to be able to look at things through different perspectives. Most of the time when we see like scholarly articles, academic works that are looking at an important or influential piece of art through a blank lens, they want you to look at it through that lens. And that's cool. And that's probably important and it's valid. And it's always, I think, always worth, trying to have a different perspective or understand a new perspective. But what these pieces do when we're looking at Huckleberry Finn through a feminist lens. That's not the lens we usually look at Huckleberry Finn through. That would be probably more likely a racial lens. Then what that person is probably saying is, I did a really close examination. Close read is usually just I'm really, really examining this really hard. Close reading is really like reading between the lines. And here is what I found. Here is what this book says about women. Here is why this book matters to feminism, or why this book is offensive to feminists. Now I'm thinking about Huckleberry Finn as a piece reflecting feminism. It might be fun. It might be fun to look into that. There are 2 or 3 women in the whole book. What is their role? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I probably will mull it over. So there's a purpose. If I'm going to sit down and really think about this, write it out, make an argument about the lens through which I'm reading this book, movie, whatever it is, you put a lot of time into it, you put a lot of thought into it, you're going to defend your stance a lot. There's a reason, there's something motivating that. And it is, it's useful to understand. It's useful to understand why people do that. It's useful to understand how to do that. Okay. So I think we've covered why we'll do that, right? There's a reason. There are so many different ways to look at the world. And a lot of people are opening a lot of other people's minds by doing this work, this excavation of art. I know people do this with visual art. I know people do this with music. I know the entire internet is dedicated to doing this for TV or, probably even like TikTok accounts. I'm not that online, mostly that online, but not quite. So just as our practice, I actually spent a lot of time, maybe not a lot of time, but I talked to a lot of people about like, what is a movie everyone has seen? And The Lion King is where I ended up. And we're going to do just The Lion King. We're going to do just The Lion King. We're not looking at its influences. That was a conversation that I had recently about The Lion King that probably wouldn't have come to my mind otherwise. But we're just looking at the I'm going to be really, really clear. We're just looking at the animated Disney movie from, probably should have looked up something about The Lion King before this. I think it came out in 94. Oh, I am correct. Great. So that's it. I tried to find something that everyone can identify with. And, there's nothing all people have seen, but it's probably an example used a lot too in other writing lessons, other writing situations, because it's a proper hero's journey, which is a fun, totally separate lesson that I don't actually engage with a lot. I feel like that information's out there, and I don't need to give it. Excuse me. So if we're looking at The Lion King through a feminist lens, the first thing we want to do, I mean, you can do this in whatever order you want, but the first thing I'm going to do for the sake of organization and logic is I'm going to look at the characters who are feminine. And that can mean a lot of things. So that's the first, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do this in real time, just like I said we would. Except I just did that wrong. Okay, now I can share my screen. So, I've titled this document, The Lion King Feminist Reading, which is pretty much just my cursor isn't working. Nothing's working. I have frozen. That is not ideal. Hey, we're back. Thanks for being here with me, friends. We're not screen sharing though. So we're going to try again. All right, over here. Is my cursor working? Is the computer frozen? Great. Okay, so the Lion King Feminist Reading. That's another way of saying reading through a feminist lens. We're doing a feminist reading of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at feminine characters, and then that has its own little subcategories: the women or girls, and those who are oh gosh, there's a word for it. Written with culturally recognized feminine attributes. So that's a big thing in doing something through a lens. Is a lot of the times we're looking at has coded, that's the word, who are coded feminine, those who are coded feminine. So a lot of the time you'll see people talk about queer coding, and a lot of the time that happens in discussions of, I don't know what's making noise, I apologize. We talk about villains being queer coded. That happens in animated movies a lot. People talk about the queer coding of villains, which is interesting. And people will look at things through a queer lens to say, we're teaching people, you know, these kinds of characters are bad, right? So I should say coding means something is written to be recognizably feminine if it's feminine coded. I don't know, actually, off the top of my head, if that's relevant to the Lion King. I'm gonna say we do have, so okay, let's do this. There is a hyena, so lady hyena, who I didn't know was a lady hyena until I learned that Whoopi Goldberg was the voice actor. What does that say? What does that say? We've got Nala. We've got Simba's mom. I muted myself to ask what Simba's mom's name is. I'm going to feel really dumb. It's a good name. It's a name I like. Sarabi. There we go. Do we see any other women? Yes, we do. Sarabi becomes a leader of the lionesses when Scar takes over. And then we also have when 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 Simba is a cub, we see other families with cubs, and Nala has a mom. So right off the bat, we do not see a lot of we just don't see a lot of women in The Lion King. That's important. I'm gonna look up Hyena Whoopi Goldberg. Shenzi is her name. Shenzi. Okay, so right off the bat, we see not a lot of women are represented at all in The Lion King. So that's worth noting. We could go with the Bechdel test, which is when someone examines a piece of art to see if, these are guidelines, two women with names speak to each other about anything other than a man. I don't think The Lion King passes the Bechdel test. I can't say that off the top of my head. I don't know for sure. But I can't think of a situation in which Nala's mom and Sarabi have a conversation that isn't about Simba. I can't think of a lot of situations in which only named women are on screen. I don't know if Nala's mom has a name. So that's worth noting. So that's going to be, I guess, a note under women and girls. Not many, doesn't pass Bechdel test. Is that going to be relevant later? I don't know, but it's just, this is just our first round of examining. The Bechdel test was named for Alison Bechdel, who wrote a comic series in which this was a punchline. Two women were discussing a movie, and the character would only go see a movie if it met these guidelines. So then we're going to look at characters who are coded feminine. I don't know about this. I can't really think of any. I think it would be possible to include Rafiki as a caregiver. I'm putting lots of question marks there because I don't know if I really agree with that. You could say the same thing about Zazu. So Rafiki's the monkey, Zazu is the bird as a caregiver. I wouldn't pursue those ends. If we wanted to get deep into the weeds with it, we could look at, Zazu's really annoying. The kids don't like Zazu, but Zazu does end up being an ally and a hero. So if we decide that Zazu is, I don't know if that's spelled right. This feels so silly. If we decide that Zazu is femme-coded, then we can say, like, women save the day, but we don't like them, and that's going to be our thesis. I don't think that that's a stance I want to take. Maybe it is. Another lens we could look at is like fathers in Disney movies. So that might be our next step. Our next step is masculine characters. We also will want to look at what roles do the women, we're going to call them women. We're not going to go deep into the muck about what we're calling lions. We're just not going to do that. What roles do the women play to the plot? Nala finds Simba and brings Simba home. Spoiler alert. Sarabi is the leader of the hunters. Let's say Sarabi is queen. but also a victim. The women all kind of seem to be victims and heroes. So the keeping the lions alive ends up on the shoulders of the women because they are the hunters. And Scar has, more or less rained down on them with evil and hoarding and fascism. It's just not entirely going how I thought it would. So we see women then taking on the role of both caretaker, hunter, and survivor. It could be really fun. It could be really fun to examine just that bit and look into, like what statement is what statement is being made by that. And the reason that we do things like that, maybe it's not an overt statement, but what are we learning as children when we engage with this content? These things are subject to academic debate, and they're subject to cultural debate because what I always say, the truth about stories is that's all we are. That's a Thomas King quote. But the stories that we take in do change the way we think, especially at a young age, especially if they're given to us by people we admire, respect, or look up to. So if we did want to, we could make we could make a solid defense of, like, I learned how to treat women from The Lion King. Don't do that. Do that if you want to, but it seems like a slippery, rocky road to me. Then we look at masculine characters who are men, characters who are mask coded. You could say that perhaps Sarabi is coded masculine because she's the hunter, or the protector. I probably wouldn't, but you could. Characters who are men, that's pretty much everyone. This is going to be like a long list here, but we've got Simba, we've got Mufasa, we've got Scar, we've got two hyenas, we've got Timon and we've got Timon and Pumbaa. There's probably a lot of scholarly work on Timon and Pumbaa out there. I haven't looked into it, but I'm enjoying the thought process now. Pumbaa, I wrote Pumbaa, Timon and Pumbaa. What else do we have? I'm gonna look and see if anybody's hanging out with me here. If you can remember more characters, then I can. I'm looking on my phone, so I don't have to do screen sharing or whatever. Okay, nobody's hanging out with me. That is a-okay. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't think we see. These are the main characters, right? We've covered all the main characters. Oh, we've got Zazu and Rafiki, obvi. Zazu, Rafiki. Okay. And characters who are masculine coded. Again, we could do Sarabi maybe if we wanted to. We could do that hyena. What did we say her name is? Shenzi. Yeah, why not? Let's do Shenzi down here. Things that we could look into with putting Shenzi under masculine coding would be villain, right? Or I don't know. I don't know the hyenas apart in personality. I know one is dumb, gets cross-eyed a bunch, and hit a bunch. A lot of violence in this movie. But I don't know. I don't know what exploration of that I would do. And then the next thing, we're sorting out our characters by femininity, and we're going to look at the plot. So we start out, it's a coming of age. Okay, I'm going to do this plot. Coming of age, hero's journey. I'm not getting on hero's journey. But I will say, I believe hero's journey does end with a happy little romance at the end. I'm not sure if that's necessary though. We've got, I'm just going to do the bare bones of it. Young prince. Explore. So we start with a day in the life, right? Day in the life, colon, young prince explores his, the land he's going to inherit, kingdom, with father, plays with a friend, discovers something forbidden. He's provoked into that. He discovers by design something forbidden, witnesses father's death, cannot prevent it, runs away due to guilt, meets new friends, childhood best friend finds him, they fall in love, and brings him home to save the kingdom. Fights uncle over kingdom, learns his father's death is not his fault, wins his kingdom back. Right, there's the plot. I included the learning because that's a pivotal moment for the character. So we've got, right off the bat, we're looking at this through a feminist lens. The main character is a boy who I would say is relatively self-centered based on him being self-centered. The first time we see him, he is asking about, this will be mine. Second time we see him, he's talking about how great it is to be the future king. Next time we see him, he is manipulating his friends and family into letting him go play somewhere he's not allowed to play. Then something bad happens and he runs away instead of sticking around. He does have, plenty of encouragement to leave. So we could focus on that for a while if we were focusing on Simba. But that's, that's what I get from just the synopsis. Protagonist is self-centered mask. Nala is a plot device, so that's not looking great for women. His love interest, is the reason the plot changes. Woman as plot device, question mark. Love interested. Finds the women in his family / kingdom are those fighting the evil king. I don't even know if we see men in the kingdom when he comes back. I'd like to tell you, it's been a very long time since I've seen this movie. Anyway, so looking at this is the bare bones. This is not, I'm not writing well, my screen sharing is paused because I lost a screen. Okay. we're not gonna go, I mean, you're welcome to take my notes and do a deep feminist dive on The Lion King. But what I'm seeing here is The Lion King doesn't treat women super well. So if I were going to move forward doing a scholarly dive, a feminist reading on the Lion King, I would say women aren't treated super well. We know one woman acts as a plot device. We know there's one secondary woman character. I would say Nala's got probably, I don't know this, of course, equal screen time to Timon and Pumbaa, and all the other women are background noise. I would look at what work the women are doing in the plot. I would say women at no point represent evil. I would say women are shown doing difficult work. I would say women are motivating the plot. So while having Nala sort of serve as a plot device, she's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Her character has some development. She's got a personality. She's not passive. None of the women are passive, so that's a positive, I think. In fact, I would say maybe none of the characters at all are passive, except maybe Simba. That's interesting. What does that say about the dynamics of gender? I don't have an answer for that. These are just all things that we would explore if when looking at The Lion King through a gendered or feminist lens. Yeah, so we can do the same thing, the same sort of breakdown would be how I would start really going through any sort of lens. And then it's important, of course, to have the text in front of you, whatever it is. Review it. Don't just guess that you're correct without doing your research like I'm doing. I'm guessing that I'm correct based on a movie I've seen 100 times, but not in the last 10 years. Yeah, we've got some strong women, but they don't show up very often. What does that mean? What does that say about the storytellers? What does that say about the protagonist? And what does that tell the person observing for entertainment? I think we can often make the argument that the art we consume colors the way we view the world. So that would be another take, another perspective to follow when exploring this. Yeah, so if you would like to move forward with looking at how I have this showing on my phone because I was looking to see if anyone was commenting or had input, and now it's distracting me. So yeah, let me know if I left any questions, if there was something that was really unclear or I said something way off base. I do definitely want to make it clear I have not seen this movie in a very long time. It holds a very happy place in my heart. And I'm not making any stances about it. I thought it would be a pretty good point of entry for folks, because I do believe that most people who have access to this video have seen it. But yeah, those are just first steps, how to begin looking at things through a specific lens. And I think a good exercise when we're engaging with literature, with art, is to step outside ourselves for a moment and try to imagine what it would look like if we were looking at it through a different lens, whatever lens it may be. A lot of the times it's hard to see outside our own perspectives, and we have to do it on purpose. So a more useful exercise might be for me to look at TV shows. Okay, the show Friends through a lens about race, right? Everyone on that show is white. There are 2 Jewish characters. I think only one cast member is Jewish. What is that? that would be probably a really good brain exercise as a place to start, to look at who's missing in narratives and to try to understand what it looks like from a different perspective. And that's not usually what folks are doing when they do, say, a feminist reading on The Lion King. They're not trying to, I mean, maybe they are. They're probably not trying to see outside their own perspective, but trying to get you to see their perspective. That doesn't make it any less valid or less important. Just another use for trying to see things through a lens is to be able to see outside of your own perspective. Like I said in the beginning, we are all seeing things through our own personal lens, through, through our own experiences and the things that have framed the way that we see the world. So looking at things through different perspectives, always useful. It's good for your brain. And it's good for, your heart too. So with that, it's the end of the little lesson. I would love to know what questions you may have about reading through a particular lens, or if there's any jargon that I didn't clarify, or another issue that you would like us to discuss, look into, research, teach on. Here for it. I have limited ideas of my own. So updates on the Midwest Writing Center. I am very, very excited for April to be upon us because we have a ton going on in April. First, we've got a lot of really, really great guests on Write More Light. We're going to have Misty Urban teaching on micro fiction. We're going to have Tate Lewis Carroll will be back to do a lesson on the haiku. Rachel Corsini, a debut novelist, her book is called Sushi and Sea Lions, will be on. We will have I thought I had more people planned. Oh, I do. Beatrice Shares, who is a comic writer, costume designer, jewelry maker, will be on as an illustrator, will be on as well in April. Yeah, we also have on April 6th, this is super, super exciting. It's going to be our, at least in this series, it'll be our final workshop with Ida Zalelian. It is telling family stories. That is Ida Zalelian's bread and butter. We already know she's an excellent teacher. We already know she's an excellent writer. And this is what she does. She's a teacher and a writer of family stories. This is going to be a really, really spectacular workshop. I'm so excited about it. We all have family stories, but also our characters do too. Whether or not we think about it, whether or not the story is of the family, our characters do have that. And she's such a good teacher. So that'll be a great one to join in. That is over Zoom, Thursday, April 6th at 5 p.m. Central Time. It is $30 for members, $40 for non-members. You should come. I'll be there. I'll be a student. I'm very excited about it. Then on April 16th is our, in this series, final collaborative workshop with Nahant Marsh. That'll be the poetry segment with Aubrey Ryan. Aubrey's the author of the book Choir. It's a chapbook published by Midwest Writing Center Press. She has a few others as well, but that's my favorite. It's the one that I have easiest access to. Aubrey's a super talented teacher and amazingly talented poet. And these classes are $15 for members of either the Marsh or the Writing Center, $20 for non-members. And then that night at Roz Talks from 5 to 7, we will have a reading for anyone who has participated in any of those Nahant workshops. I totally spaced and did not mention that this week on Friday, we have an incredible reading, a Spectra reading with Emily Kinkery debuting her, it's the release party for her book Invasives out from Finishing Line Press. And openers who participate in that event will be, am I going to get this wrong? We're gonna look it up because I'm not gonna mess this up. I'm not. Well, I'll start with one of the openers for this will be Lola Nakashima Brooke, who is a former, no, current and former, and ongoing intern with the Young Emerging Writers internship, which is accepting applications through May 15th. What's really, really exciting in this moment is that Lola was just announced yesterday as the Iowa Poetry Association's Youth Poetry Ambassador. That's like a laureateship, a youth laureateship. It's the highest honor a teenager can receive in the state of Iowa for poetry. It's a really big deal. So Lola will be there opening for Emily along with Lexi Burks and Melissa Estes. So that'll be a really great lineup. Really, really good show. I've read Invasives. I did a review of Invasives by Emily Kingery, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous volume. Highly recommend it. I'll be picking up a copy there. I only read a digital arc, so it's worth owning. I'm so excited about that. That's this Friday at Rosetops from, I believe doors are at 7. Back to April. April is National Poetry Month. So we're going to do a little extra programming around that as well, which should be really fun. We of course have Writers Studio on April 1st and April 15th. As far as I know, that is currently only online. I will give updates when I have them. That's on Zoom with me from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. We try to coordinate our workshopping to curate our workshopping to what you need from your writing and not my taste, what I think would be better. This is to make your piece what you want it to be. It is not to make your piece what I want it to be. Yeah, let's see. I already said we're accepting applications for the Young Emerging Writers internship until May 15th. We also have another informational meeting for that on the evening. It's 5 p.m., 4:30 p.m. Sorry, on April 5th. I thought it was April 15th, but that is a Saturday. Probably April 13th. My apologies, everyone. I will get that updated information. But the Young Emerging Writers internship is a paid summer internship. We meet 3 days a week for 10 weeks in the summer. And the interns learn workshopping and editing and put together a full book, a full magazine. We it's a bit like job readiness, and it's a bit like a master's program. It's a really incredible program, especially to get paid for, to put it on your resume, and to end up published in the end is awesome. We're also accepting applications to the Great River Writers Retreat this summer, I think this fall. Applications are open for that to writers in the Midwest area. Full information on that is on our website. I could not begin to give the full information on that. Yeah, that's what I've got for you. So for today's free write, I encourage you to think of a piece of art that you know very well and examine it in writing through a lens outside of your own. Thanks for hanging out with me today. As always, write more light into your life.